Okay, hi. Today we're going to go over Chapter 7 from Digital Storytelling as well as Season 2 from the Guild. And I hope you're continuing to enjoy the Guild. As you'll see, Season 2 is even better than Season 1, especially in relation to the production value. And we're going to be talking about some reasons for that today, as well as looking at some review of mise-en-scène and applying the new information from Chapter 7 to the Guild. So sit back, grab something to write with, take some notes, and here we go. Okay, so we're going to look at the opening scenes from, or the opening credits from Season 1 and Season 2. And you can clearly see the influence of money and the difference between the intro for Season 1 and Season 2. I want you to look down at the annotations here. Notes that the theme song was written by a friend and donated, as well as the art itself. I'm going to pause here real quick. So you can see how digital storytelling creates opportunities for people who don't already have a bunch of money. But then also when you're dealing with art and music that's been donated, by friends, then you also have to deal with the fact that it's not going to have a very high production value. I'm just going to replay this real quick. You'll notice that there's just a bunch of panning and tilting and eye blinking in the first season's intro. The costumes are pretty much going to stay the same between the first season and the second season. So I'm going to close this out now. And here's the intro for the second season. Similarly, we start with Codex's face as a medium close-up of her. And she apparently has much better cleavage in her fantasy world than in real life. And I'm going to start the motion here. And you're going to see that the panning and the tilting, the graphics are a lot better. The costumes are the same, but we have Tink now shooting an arrow. We have cleavage again, eye blinks, and movement from all the characters. And I'm going to pause here. And the quality, just in general, of the art and the graphics is much better. It's amazing how much more time and money it takes to do intro credits such as these than the ones before, but you'll notice that this time the artwork was donated by a fan. So you can see how with more exposure by the internet, they were able to capitalize on the free work that was donated by friends in the beginning, and to reach out to a larger community of fans that could still help them work within the confines of their budget by donating their work, but you have more people to choose from. So that's something that's really cool about the way that the internet works, of course, is that it connects you to people that you're separated from through time, well, hopefully not time, but through space. We have a way to connect to one another. And that gets us back to McLuhan's, the medium is the message. The internet, coming up with an internet story to tell, connects you to people in a way where you can talk to them in real time, even though you're geographically very far away from them, in a way that you can't with other mediums. So keep that in mind, okay? I also want you to notice how there are particular items associated with each character. And there's less warlike weapons. We have just 2 weapons here with blades and Vork. And Zabu has his healing staff, as does, or witch staff, as does Codex have her healing staff. And then Clara has her crystals and is only Tink that has the bow and arrow. And so you can see that the women in the series are more associated with witchcraft and healing, whereas men with more associated with actual physical aggression. And it becomes important to the storyline itself, and we're going to be talking about the storyline here, in that even though the Guild itself, the web series, is not a game, there is interactivity in it, and the story itself is about gaming culture. So if you are not yourself somebody who is interested in or has a lot of experience in the massively multiplayer online role-playing games, also known as MMORPGs, then a lot of what they talk about is going to be unfamiliar to you, and you're going to feel alienated. But for those of you who have done a lot of these role-playing games, the massive online ones, multiplayer also, sorry, I got the order confused there, is going to seem very familiar to you. And that narrative, which probably most of you are familiar with because gaming is so popular these days. We talked about that in previous chapters, where most people your age are gaming, even though most players are in their 30s, the largest percentage. Anyway, you've grown up with this, and so you're familiar with these kinds of stories, and these stories reflect your reality of what it's like to live in a world where a large portion of our worlds are conducted in virtual spaces, right? We are cyborgs. And do remember that. We are cyborgs. And also the 3 categories that you're supposed to know about cyborgs, you're going to find them in the videos and in my online worksheet that I distributed, not by Googling. What you're going to find on Google is going to lead you very far astray from what you should know for this class. So go back and review that. Anyway, to get back to chapter 7, we have a lot to talk about here with the guild. So in the guild, in season 2, we see evidence of what Miller is emphasizing in her chapter about how we see the 3-act structure. Sorry, I hit the wrong pause button. We see the 3-act structure here in the guild that Miller emphasizes in chapter 7. And I wanted to restart this because what we have here in the very opening scene is Codex and Zabu in a little tiff because Zabu is still crashing in her apartment, which she does not want him to be. So this is the catalyst that sets off the action for season 2. This is a catalyst that Miller talks about, which would be part of Act 1, which we have to figure out in the beginning what the catalyst is and what the central conflict is that we're going to be following throughout the season. Now, because Zabu is living in Codex's house and Codex doesn't want him in her house, and not only that, Zabu has a crush on her. We do see how down here in the credits eventually the producers and the directors acknowledge that this crush borders on stalker behavior, and that's really creepy and a real concern for a lot of people out there in the world. I do want us to acknowledge that again, that the guild is reproducing narratives that we see within our real lives. What ends up happening within the guild over the course of the seasons is that Zabu ends up being a lot more of a nuanced character and not just such a creeper. So they do get a chance to develop them. Nevertheless, I don't think that we should hold true that all creepers will turn into nice people. Remember, this is a fictional world. But anyway, here we need Zabu as the catalyst to start the narrative. I also like the annotations that bring up how Felicia turned down many offers for season 2. That means offers for funding. She eventually signed a deal with Xbox that allowed her to keep owning the show. So notice that she's choosing ownership of the show over financial security in order to keep, authorship and autonomy, but that she is allowing in a certain amount of what's known as like cross-marketing, where Xbox, we're going to start seeing Xbox related items within the narrative. And so that becomes part of the mise-en-scène. And the funding bleeds into what we see. And we start being, given illustrations of why we should love Xbox more. So we have this catalyst, and that's going to help us to figure out what's going to be developed and explored in the different conflicts throughout the season. So when Zabu does eventually move into Vork's house, and here we're going to see some scenes, well, this is clear, but we're going to see some scenes here where we can see the conflicts between Zabu and Vork, where, they're trying to explore all kinds of different conflicts, where they're fighting over who gets access to the internet and who's going to pay for how many flushes of the toilets. I love these little details that help to develop the characters in subtle ways, especially Vork's love for saving money. We also have a new love interest that shows up for Codex. New love interest for Codex encourages Zabu to start lifting weights so that he can be as sexy as Wade, right? and that's not going to work out very well. And then we also have this fight scene, which I really like because, again, the Guild explores how violence is staged very carefully on film sets, and this fight scene really makes that obvious, especially how Wade has a hard time remembering not to pull his punches when trying to hit Zebu, and also then teaches them, various little tricks along the way on how to fight in real life. Hi, this is Kate. Yes? Not interested. Okay, so I accidentally recorded me clicking around for a while, and I'm sorry about that. You're just going to have to fast forward through it because don't have time to edit this video today. But anyway, I wanted to talk about how, like the annotations say here, certain gaming terms were invented for the web show, were brought over into the comic series to the game universe together. So the annotations are drawing attention to how gaming terminology affects what is said and also what is done within the narrative and also within the comic books that we're going to be reading here in a couple of weeks. I'm going to go ahead and pause this video. I'm sorry for that blank space. We just watched me clicking around. And I will finish this all up with the next video.